Welcome to this community forum on January 30th of 2025. I first of all want to honor my mother, um, the legend Sylvia L. Greer, who has been a champion of human and civil rights her whole life, and I have walked alongside her. So in honor of her, I think this is a very appropriate day to have a forum. A couple of days ago, we started hearing about the executive orders that were coming down from the federal government. How many of you heard, read about it, saw it on the news, were concerned about it? Concerned? Definitely. 2 weeks ago, I had clinical supervision with my therapist, and many of them discussed that. Many of them discussed that our clients, they couldn't really get through therapy and working toward goals because they are having anxiety and fear about what's going to happen with this administration. So I know that we have people in every socioeconomic class, every walk of life, who are kind of sitting on edge to find out what's going to happen and how it's going to affect them. So we have called this forum to be able to discuss what we know, what we don't know, to hear what your concerns are, to tell you, explain ways that you can advocate for yourself and the people that you love. So we know that at Genesis Project and Groundwater, we are a faith-based organization, and we encourage each of us to develop a relationship with the higher power or the God of your understanding. So we do open up and pray. So is there anybody who would like to open us up today? Go.
Okay, well, we come to this week of how thanking you for the state, thanking you for our life, help, and strength. Lord, we ask that you bless this room today, understanding. Lord, we ask that you just help us to be able to have a wonderful discussion so that we can operate excellence, knowing that we still got our pursuits. Lord, we thank you for all things. Keep us in God. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Now, first of all, this is not a bash Trump session. Can we be clear? Because there are a lot of things that he's done a lot in 5 days, 1 week? It's been 9 days today. And not all of them are bad. Let's be clear. As a provider of behavioral health services, a provider that accesses Medicaid dollars to be able to support the communities, we are challenged and charged to not, they have a policy on fraud, abuse, and waste that we are to monitor to make sure that's not happening within our agency, and we are held to that standard. Well, guess who hasn't been held to that standard? The federal government, the state government. And Trump is finally calling for a cease of fraud, abuse, and waste. I mean, you've been into government offices where you could tell the people they don't care. They not, they taking their time working, and that's, if we do that as a provider, one, we're going to be censored. We're going to be having paybacks in many issues. So a lot of what Trump is saying and doing now is needed and should have been done years ago. But some of what he's doing is very radical, and I know I have concerns, and I know that the people that I support have concerns. So we're going to dive into many of the most significant executive orders to talk about how it impacts you. I also have Stephanie Tyson with me. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself.
I'm Stephanie Tyson. I'm actually a provider in a few states. And so this definitely what happened the last few days affected one of the states that I'm in. They did not expand Medicaid. So everyone's scrambling in this one particular state. But it was not President Trump's. He did not want this to happen. It was a mistake. They tried to rectify it, and they're going to rectify it. Because one of the things his campaign messages, he would not do anything with Medicaid, Medicare, and there were some other social agencies who were involved. Now, when it comes to DEI, that's a very interesting.
DEI is
diversity, equity, and inclusion. You remember that? That came about. Actually, it's been around for a number of years, but the name kind of changed.
Used to be called affirmative action efforts and
Set aside
minority participation limits and things like that, where a certain amount of federal dollars for every federal project had to go to a minority entity, which are people of color, which are females, people with disabilities, different minority populations. So there's been a set aside that is supposed to have been happening for how many years? Sir,
was it 1960s?
Now, has that always been exercised and mandated?
Well, that's we can all question that. But what we learned is that 4% were African Americans. When you look at the entire DEI,
Look at all the
ethnicity. So if you look at African Americans, well, 4% of that
of getting the
benefits from diversity, equity, inclusion. But when you look at the Asian population, Indian, it was a very low number. Who really suffered behind that was Caucasian women, because we know for a number of years, even in Missouri, you can vouch for this. When that WNBE, WNBE and Hub, and we had to go through all those certifications just to say who we were and what we look like, our ethnicity, right? When it happened, they put all women because of women's rights back in the 70s, I believe. That including Caucasian women. So a lot of times, and it's still proven, a lot of white women would actually become the owners of their husband's establishment. Tax credits, a lot. They benefited a lot out of that. So what happened
is about 90% of the money for diversity and inclusion programs went to white women.
That's correct. We've always said that. You can chime in any time because you're more of an expert when it comes to that. So did he do us a favor, President Trump? Absolutely he did. So when it comes to fraud, waste, and abuse, just like Dr. Black talked about, well, he's looking at the same thing on a federal level. The other day, what happened, it wasn't supposed to stop. The portal wasn't supposed to stop. It's just that so there's a portal that we know on a state level, we go in, well, the state goes in and they build for different, because it's a 2 to 3 match. Who's on Medicaid and all of that. They did not mean for that portal to stop. It was a mistake, to be honest with you, because the system is so old and I don't understand, and very antiquated. So it just stopped. So he rescinded it. Now they still have to go to court on Monday.
So let me get back around so that you all understand. So you all remember that they sent out an executive order 2 days ago, and it said that effective 5 p.m. Tuesday, 5 p.m. Tuesday, there was going to be a freeze on all federal funding for healthy human service programs, hospitals, any grants, Head Starts, different educational programs. Immediately, there was an immediate freeze. Every state has this portal, federal portal, that they log into to be able to draw down the federal funds that are supposed to come to the state. Well, as of Tuesday, the portal shut down. So the states cannot draw down any federal money at this moment. Now, what Trump did is he said, well, we're not going to mess with individual benefits. That if you get Medicaid, you'll still have Medicaid. If you get food stamps, you'll still get food stamps. If you have Social Security,
it was SNAP.
Yeah, you keep individually getting your benefits. So don't worry. However, potentially, DSS has no money to pay their staff. Agencies like ours have no money to pay our staff, so they can still get services, but the service provider can't function because there's no federal dollars coming into the state.
Now, what the state can do on the Medicaid side, they have Medicaid reserve funds, but if they go into that, we have a problem. We have a huge problem because it's only going to last for so long.
Now, and they told me not to curse, but the exact wording that I heard is if we have to touch the Medicaid reserve, we are
That's correct.
That's what the state is saying. And although we have reserves that could potentially sustain the state services for 60 days, 90 days, maybe,
Yeah.
what we've heard doing my research at the state level is really even the state legislators have to vote to touch the reserve. And they know if we touch the reserve, that's bad. So what's in the cauldron right now is, you all understand as providers, when we bill 1 week, we get paid the following week. Well, what we have heard is that they have enough for next Tuesday. They're going to be able to pay out next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. But after that, if the portal does not open, or they don't touch the Medicaid reserve funding, that there will be no check right to providers in 2 weeks.
So we know that the legislators, though, from a state level, they do understand this is not how those programs are supposed to work. So our state legislators, they're going to be on it. The issue, I do. I think when it comes to, we just got a new DHHS secretary sworn in. We've got a Medicaid director. I mean, I do believe that they're going to have to do something, very fast, but hopefully after Monday, everything goes back to normal on our side. Now it's not gonna be perfect on some of the other issues, because one of the biggest things that President Trump is trying to do, we're at war, right? We're at a war that he didn't get us in, kind of. Well, he didn't. He wasn't even elected when it happened. So let's stop sitting on that money over there and let's save it, or let's try to put it back out here. That's one of the biggest things he's really trying to do. And there's going to be a lot of bumps and bruises.
So I have a question about that. Let's finish with so you all understand financially what's going to happen. So people who have Medicaid benefits, stamps, you're good, but you might not be able to have a provider because your doctor can't get paid. So I know what you're saying, that hopefully our elected officials will jump to, but we have seen in the past where that does not always happen. And they say, call your elected officials, write your elected officials, because some of them may be aware, but there's a whole slew of them that don't necessarily understand how these decisions are going to trickle down at the street level to the community. Would you say that's fair?
That's cool.
So we need to be calling to let them hear our voices. Okay, and we need to be calling quickly. As far as the federal and with regard to that executive order, so it was supposed to be frozen as of 5 p.m. on Tuesday. Well, a judge representing 22 states filed a restraining order to keep that from happening. But that restraining order expires February 3rd, which is this coming Monday. We need to call quickly.
Please call. You have to call your congressman. I think everyone's familiar with Senator Tom Tillis, correct? You got Alan Adams. We're talking about Congress.
Like the U.S. Senate, not the North Carolina.
Well, you can call them as well.
Yeah.
Because they can know the pressure on Congress.
And they need to know they need to touch the reserve so that the providers get paid.
Hopefully you don't have to go.
We don't want to have it. But
hopefully after Monday, there will be a plan on what it looks like. Because right now, you're talking 9 days in office, a lot of executive orders. Some of them he might have an understanding about, some of them he might not. But that's the whole purpose of having staff, so they can interpret that. But I promise you, he did not mean to disrupt the way they did. Now it's already been done, so it has to be a lot of damage control. So hopefully after Monday, we won't have to, we'll be okay. We can be back to normal to some level. But, we've got 4 years with it.
But also, what the judge's order says is that you cannot disrupt every public system in the United States without a written plan of what you're going to replace the system with.
That's right.
So there will be reductions in funding going out. Would you agree?
Yes, there is going to be some reduction. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are going to be some changes. Everybody going to have to tighten their belt, and it's going to happen. But the judge is requiring them to have it planned
On Monday.
by Monday. So that means it's not going to keep happening. They have to have a written plan.
Have to have a plan.
Okay.
Go back to it. Well, hopefully they have to have a plan. They have to have it. I just think what happened the other day, they weren't able to stop some of the foreign aid. So in order maybe to stop the foreign aid, they just shut the whole system down by accident.
They help us putting in nothing. Make sure stuff is on perfect.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Doesn't that show that the new people that President Trump having obviously they're supposed to do their job is not capable. They do not understand the full depth of their job and their responsibility.
That's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
It's fair.
That we're finding that people who are part of the CAT things like that don't necessarily have the background and experience and expertise that we would expect.
So who was still being to fix this? If the people currently have in place in these offices, no wonder.
That's a President Trump question because he selected them with his transition team, and so this is what we have to work with. I think if we come up with solutions versus
Attacks.
Tax, and I think if we had some solutions, and that's what we're calling your state General Assembly, your representative, House and Senate. I think everybody in here knows the Steve McGee.
Yeah. What we're going to do is we're hoping to have a list of we're going to, if your name is on there, we're going to send that out to you today, who to call from your state.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ms. Tyson, you have met President Trump. We don't advertise that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sorry.
I've been trying to drink with him. He's a business guy.
But you get the sense that if you give him solutions that will work, he will live.
Especially because he's very transactional. I think that's the way of the world today. Transaction. So, he's a business guy. If it makes dollars, it makes sense. He's all for it. He is. I think, he's a reasonable guy too. He has grandchildren. He's got kids. True enough, he's on a different level of privilege that maybe all of us in here have never seen, never been a part of, but nor can he relate to how we live. And that struggle, there's no question of that. But his cabinet, now, when you look at some of his cabinet, they're young. Look at his press secretary. She's 27. She talked about having TikTok influencers. Did anybody see that?
Oh, where she was going to have a camera set up where it used to be a press seat.
That's correct. And she said, hey, anybody out there? Because what he's looking for is positive. He really don't want the hard questions, right? Because he doesn't know the answers to them. Because he did 4 years back in 2016 and 2021. No, 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. But then he was president. So if he'd had 8 consecutive years, he would have understood the policies. He would have understood a lot. But you can't do a lot in 4 years. So this is his second part of the 4 years. And that's why you see him. He's like a train that left the station. We're on a bullet train. We just got to keep going. Keep it going.
He put his gas on the pedal and I'm
Sit on there and you get
hit a brick wall though. We might hit a brick wall.
Well, we might. And that's where the immigration situation comes in. Migrants, right?
Speak more on that.
Migrant workers are interesting. We do have about, I think they quoted 21 million migrants in the country. That's why you see, they got 1,200. Their goal is 1,800 plus a day being deported.
So explain what a migrant worker is.
So a migrant worker, I'm going to use North Carolina because I worked with the migrants during the pandemic for 2.5 years. So what happens with them, there's a processing center. They leave Mexico in a bus, luxury bus. They come You got to go through the border, and it depends. They get through, they might not get through. There might be some delays. Once they get through the border, they come to the state. It could be California. There's a lot of states that use migrant workers from the South.
And we inviting them in. That's what you said. We love us and say, come on. Because we know help in the right.
Because North Carolina, we're going to use them as an agricultural state. So with the migrant workers, they would come in. It's a processing center. It's a small building. The buses come in. There was times we had 20 buses at a time. So they would come in
Doing testing,
vaccination, more vaccination.
Okay.
Because the testing, that's a whole different story. So they come in.
They got the test. Because
Yeah.
you don't want them testing positive because then who's going to
Right.
Then I can't put them in the field. If they test positive,
but I got
we vaccinate.
But we've got to quarantine them. And so that was a different issue for the farm workers. So they come in, they go into this garage-looking building, they're processed. They're stationed, just like DMV used to be. There are stations there, and they have 4 names. So when they get processed, they have it where there's this taco truck that they feed them. It's the original taco, not our Taco Bell. So once they get done eating, we had stuff steady. We had tents, generator, flooring, to where when they came, we had to vaccinate. Now, some of them already had vaccinations that we had never heard of. We had a chart. Because, Russia had their own vaccination. Mexico had their own. So we had to vaccinate them. Once we vaccinate them, they go back to the back of the building. They get into their assigned bus, because each bus went to a different. And then and that's how that works. Now, there was very interesting quote there at Haitians. We went down to the small town every year because they're very in transit, right? So we were able for 2 years to catch up with any state. They was in this hotel, the whole hotel. It was co-ed, but the reason there were more women than men, because the women picked the berries faster. Now, when you talk about the migrant workers leaving, who's going to do that work?
Y'all going out there? Y'all know anybody who how much did they get paid by chance?
I'm not sure. So they
Did you repeat what you just said?
Said that's voluntary slavery.
they get,
That come here, but they have to do this. Yes.
and once the jump is done, they were then transported back. But what happens while they're at that farm location, you and I, Dr. Black, might be having a conversation. Say, hey, you need some workers? And you say, yeah, I need about 50. Got 50. So what we ran into, because we went to the camps as well. Well, if Dr. Black, if I had the migrant workers, Dr. Black was going to receive them. One of her policies might be you have to show the vaccination card. We didn't give vaccination cards. And if we put them in the system, remember I said they have 4 names. 4 when they come over here. So they
Latino individuals have 4 different names.
4. It's like 2 first names and 2 last names. Well, the card was only so big. So we're just going to put the first 2 names, right? So when you go, there was a system that we use. So when we go in, we see the first 2 names. Dr. Black says, in order for them to work for her, she got to have a vaccination card. But the last 2 names, when they walked up to me to get a vaccination, is what they gave me. But I didn't know that. They just gave me the last 2, so they get re-vaccinated. And then they wander off. They go up. That's how they really get in the system. Because it's all about making money. And if you remember on Fridays, they send the money back. They send it back to their country.
Because their families are waiting on it.
Mm-hmm. Because they live in Park.
Do you think they made minimum wage?
Oh, they made more than that. Because you're talking about It was it's a business when they come into this country and they go through that process. Now all of them go through the process. That's why it comes to the border. But if they're coming on those buses and they have designated place, that's a business. The farmers are actually paying for this, but so is Mexico. Right.
With regard to aid to foreign countries, one of the executive orders says that there's an immediate freeze on aid on foreign aid, meaning, if we've agreed to fund Haiti or other countries' assistance, that it is frozen, just like they were freezing the money going into the States. However, what I've been reading is that there's money still going to Ukraine.
We can't stop it right now. Because if we stop it, that's what happened the other day. They were trying to stop that, I believe. But that's what took the system down. I don't think any more funding went over there. We would have to get back to you on that. But I believe that was the whole purpose of it, was to stop all that funding. That's a lot of money that we can stop. And that's what President Trump is trying to do, bring it back into this country. And we say that's 50 million, 58 million, 50 million. That's it.
And then I understand that even stopping the money coming into the States for 1 week is like millions.
Well, it's everyone was scrambling the last couple of days because it's 2025. We've never had this happen. We can go back. It's still been back to, we called it back when I was in college, Reaganomics. Remember all them kids? He stopped the funding for the Pell Grant and something else, and they couldn't finish. I think they finished that rest of that quarter, but then they had to go home. They didn't have the money, and so this is how it trickles down.
So their fear right now for the students that they are not going to be able to complete this semester.
Yes.
How many of you have youth that are experiencing that now?
Yes.
And I told my son, just keep going.
That's right.
I'm gonna make a way. If I got to go far in debt, I'm gonna make a way.
So the university's already notified him?
Well, no, he hasn't been noticed. I have a friend lady that called me and her granddaughter was trying to get into. She already got approved for the financial assistance. They put a freeze on her. She can't go to school unless she's paying out of pocket.
So it sounds like they might continue to pay for the ones existing, but the ones that's coming in, no more.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's exactly what it is. It's already frozen. It's only frozen for the people who are trying
To come in, new students. See them.
or anything like that. They're
Right.
still exhausted.
She was actually trying to go, but she hadn't got in.
Man, reality is in this time that all these students are freaking out.
Yeah.
Schools had to send something out to their current students saying like, oh, this is a thing involvement of but people trying to get
This process.
Who were scheduled to start probably this coming semester.
I know some kids that are being home.
Yeah.
That raises anxiety and everything, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have to worry how they're going to pay for school, right? Finish doing what they have to do.
to attest to what she was making. They had several students who were already going in the same one that I had to drop out and make it.
Because that's what happened during Reagan. He really took a lot of that money. Did they ever give it back, Miss? No.
Well, I think we're gonna go that. When the Head Start kid, currently how to get my baby into school, and he's supposed to start this. What happens with that?
I know Head Start the other day told his staff not to come in the next day. So hopefully, they rescinded that because of President Trump rescinding it. One of the child care resources.
That's what she's
Now, if you're a receiver of child care resources, and your direct pay, it's not going to affect you. As far as the agency the daycare that take your child to, direct pay from the federal government, It's not. There's not an issue. You would have to. Where does baby go?
What's the opposite of direct pay? You're either direct pay or what?
Your direct pay, or it goes to the state, and the state pays the day. It just depends.
She would have to ask.
Yeah, you would have to ask that.
So is that vouchers?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that.
I don't care.
Now, in one of the states, the other state that I talked about Medicaid expansion, yesterday, and they're in the Title One. That's what they are. Title One. They start rolling back breakfast and free and reduced lunch. And hopefully, because one of the things that we could talk with our legislators about, you have no idea how much breakfast, lunch, and then if you, some students that are in Title One, they take food. It's like a brown paper bag on Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
They're rolling all that back. And if they only knew, that's the only meal that some children get.
Yeah.
Over the weekend and coming to school in the morning.
Yes.
Then they eat, lunch. A lot of legislators and President Trump might not understand how that really affects a lot of kids.
How could he understand if he never had to experience?
How many people he takes to make these decisions?
Because I've worked in schools where every Friday, we had a lot of grocery bags, and every child who knew they came in, I'm coming to get my bag for the weekend.
Right. And every brown paper bag, I don't understand.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the tough part. We're not sure about Head Start. I don't think I'm hoping that President Trump doesn't really roll back your Head Start, your pre-K.
So many people are going to be.
Yes.
So many. Yes.
And believe it or not, what happened the other day, that caused chaos on a different level. For
Yes.
DC.
I called and messaged you.
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do?
Let's finish with deportation of immigrants. JD was in the back of the room. He's a physical trainer, and right there in the back, he's a physical trainer. He does fitness classes, fitness nutrition, and all of that. And he had a set of classes that were specific for the Latino populations, filled with Latino customers. They are not coming out of the house.
No, they're not. Mm-hmm. Not even the children.
Not even the children. They're not going to school because
they're afraid. They're hiding.
Because where there were protections of, immigration officers couldn't go into the schools. They couldn't go into churches.
Yeah.
And several things that all restrictions are gone.
Yeah.
Of where they can go look. And so people are hiding in their homes.
People and welfare drag
They are.
kids.
Well, they for the kids.
No, they're not going to send kids out. So they see.
I heard that they
Well, no,
Born here, they'll stay in something.
no, one of the executive orders that says that the children, the law previously, if you were born in the United States, you were a United States citizen. One of the executive orders is that if your parents were not U.S. citizens, just because you were born here does not make you a U.S. citizen. So they are taking the children and the parents. Yeah. So speak up about your concerns. In the interest of time, I just want to quickly go through their reductions on government employees. I know you've probably heard that for many positions, Trump has offered people, if they resign, they were going to give 7 months of severance pay.
Yeah. After 7 months, then what?
But either way, part of the argument is that they don't trust Trump's credit. So we resign, and then what if our money doesn't come? I was having a conversation with Stephanie earlier today, and I said, no, we're going to be like Chris Tucker on Friday, same time. That's fine. You give me my check. Same time today.
I think the federal government, there's their HR have directives on how to do that. If they chose to resign, they would definitely get their self. Yeah. You're talking about the federal government. Now, what happens after that? If they're smart, they would actually try to get jobs elsewhere throughout the federal government that kind of put some, you kind of buried actually, where, he wouldn't even really know. Well, he would know. No, he wouldn't know, actually. Just the HR would really know, and that department just transfer somewhere else. And that's what those women in the DEI program should have did. They knew it was coming. The day he was elected, they should have put in transfers to different departments.
Because they eliminated all the positions.
Yeah.
And within the state programs, education, any programs that are centered on diversity, equity, and inclusion, they're terminated.
Now, some companies have took it too far. Let's look at Target. Let's look at Amazon.
Costco.
No, Costco, it's up to them. Because you're talking private corporations. Target, they don't even have black products in there. They took them all out. So why we need to shop at Target, right?
So that was their response?
So they took it out of their policy. Did you see that? Because I'm not even they took it DEI out of their policy, minority participation. It's
You know what hurts me? I'm gonna know that the lady that made the decision, she wants you. The DEI secretary.
and that was her probably last thing she did before she walked out.
I mean, but we got to understand, and I was having this conversation with Ms. Tyson earlier about a decision that a former elected official in the state, high-level official, made that was not smart.
Yeah.
I have sat on boards. My mom has sat on boards. I'm sure you sit on boards, and you get pretty high up there. There is such pressure to go along with the status quo, or you're going to be personally penalized. And unfortunately, we've had times in our lives where we're not going against along with the status quo, and we speak out and we speak truth, and we have suffered the consequences of being honest. So I think we're in those same situations right now, but what are we going to do? Are we going to still speak truth? We have to.
Do we still support the companies like a Target? Amazon is like hard to even navigate. I don't even think, I can't even remember what was I doing without Amazon. It's just really easy. Wait a minute, I need this. It'll be here tomorrow, or it'll be here. Or the TikTok shop.
Yeah. And I remember that day you was like, I need to cook, but I don't feel like going to the grocery store. But I give Instacart too much money.
I'm not sure if Walmart is part of this, but there is a list of companies that took DEI. DEI can really stay in place. Only thing you got to do is rename it. That's all you got to do. It can be Dr. Black's place, but we still operating up under the same guidelines and regulations. So for your private corporations to do that so quickly, they don't want. Yeah, they fine.
Yeah.
So do we still continue to walk in at Target? That's the problem.
And the challenge is that we keep fighting for diversity, equity, and inclusion, affirmative action, quotas, or whatever. It doesn't benefit us anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I think, but if we don't fight for it, I believe Trump is making the assumption, and you might think differently, that people are just going to choose the best people. Whoever's the smartest, whoever is not. Race, it doesn't have to be an issue.
Well, that's
like he don't know people. People
about how he is thinking. Did he really look at the numbers and see it really with an effect? Because if you remember during his inaugural speech, he said, African Americans, you put me here, and it will not go. What did he say? It will not go without.
I remembered or
something he said. So did he really look at that DEI and say, folks ain't really benefiting from this anyway? It's all women. Did he really do that? We don't know. But to an extent, it helped us in a lot of different ways. It also might hurt us
So you just say something. Say that music like notification or say that just a drift nation. And helicopter drift last night. I think it rains deep.
Oh my goodness. For the crash.
So he did now on that aviation side.
He said sounds.
He took away the aviation advisory committee. He took away, there was a few things that were put in place that he took away the other day. So that's questionable. If he wouldn't have took those away on the aviation side, would that have happened? Nobody really knows.
Like it might be pointing fingers. Like we gotta give it another reason.
But the military is going to have to pay for that because they get the plane from the back. So they are going to have to pay for what happened last night.
Let's talk a moment about the whole woke culture that's now there's an executive order to fight the woke culture and to not include critical race theory, to defund schools that teach critical race theory. How many of you know what that is? Woke culture or critical race theory? Anybody know out there?
Sure.
You've heard of it? Okay. So critical race theory says that you should teach kids the truth or what, because Trump is saying that might not be true. So I'm going to say what most believe to be the truth of American history, where you teach them the facts of oppression and the civil rights movement and slavery and let them decide for themselves. What in Trump's executive order, he says that critical race puts children on two sides. They either become the victim or the oppressor. Their identity is the oppressor or the victim. And that's bad. We should teach kids to be victims or children to feel like they're oppressors. So he says that any school system, any private public school that teaches critical race theory, we should be talking about the goodness of America and how strong we are and highlight our positives as a country. They're going to be defunded.
That's his experience, though. That goes back to being at a level of privilege that none of us really have ever lived. But you have to understand where you are, where you've been, and what the history is before you can really go forward. And I really don't understand it. But DeSantis, if you look at what he did down in Florida, was that last summer? I think it was last summer or 2 years ago. I mean, why shouldn't children learn about slavery? But there's a lot of pieces of history. That's right. A lot of it. I never knew that the gentleman who assassinated President Lincoln, I've never been taught that he was a fugitive for a very long time. And I learned it on Apple TV. It's called Manhunt. And there was a black woman. She was a slave who worked for one of the doctors that really turned him in. We never learned that. I didn't even understand that. I didn't know it happened. I mean, there's a lot of things that has been removed, but I don't think we should. I think we should always learn about Malcolm X and Nat Turner. He was killed right out here somewhere in North Carolina. I think we should always learn. I think we should learn on both ends.
What was the gentleman's name that I sent you the video on? Frederick from Monroe, North Carolina, which was a huge civil rights icon on the scale of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Had to be run out of the United States, right in our backyards, but we don't hear that. So I agree.
Ben Chavis, Ben was ran out of Charlotte, and I joke with him when I see him. But I don't know necessarily why he was really ran out of Charlotte. I don't have a clue.
Because of
Say that again?
white people didn't like it.
Why?
So we went to the Big Five, and the Big Five friend
The Big Five.
What is the Big Five?
you know the black churches that was
No, ma'am.
first year, St. Paul, Mountain riot on Slow Road. Thing down the big five. And they ran everything. They ran CRC, told people what to do, that stop together and ride. He shot. That was the big five.
There is also a executive order that says they're going to freeze funding to cities and states that do not have aggressive anti-police rioting, like if like a George Foreman.
Okay.
George Foreman is the Fox. Well, who was
George, George, during COVID, the one that kicked
George Floyd? George Floyd. Thank you. That when riots break out, if there is not aggressive shutdowns, then they're going to, and the city does not have policies in place to prevent public rioting, they're going to be defunded from the federal government.
Yeah.
A positive for public education, one of the executive orders is giving parents choice that you can, and some of this has been in place for some years now, but you decide where your children go to school. If you want your child to go to a private school or a faith-based school or wherever, that same money that would go to Charlotte Mecklenburg schools here, you pick and you can go take your child anywhere else that you want, and they will pay for it. So I think that's a positive thing.
If you remember, Sam, Walmart started that program. It was a voucher system. It was grants. It was a grant you actually applied for at one point. And then Sam Walmart, I think he had already died or he had just died. It was years ago. You can get a voucher, and his foundation was doing that. So I think they mimicked that, which is good. So that is very positive.
Yeah, that's very.
But I wonder if you're Charlotte Christian, Providence Day, Country Day, Charlotte Latin, if they're going to
Charlotte
Catholic.
Are they going to accept a slew of black and brown kids?
Well, I think Charlotte Catholic, well, this juncture, because they've had some situations over there. I don't know if your Country Day would too. They had.
So it's on area.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think
That in large number?
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know. You know, Dr. Black, that would be a very good podcast that, because you know they operate off a board of governors, and it's all the private headmaster. Well, I can call one in one day.
Some of the other positive things are cost of living protections. We're really doing some aggressive things to reduce the cost of housing, food, groceries, things like that, and the price gouging that happens in the United States. Very good order. There is the executive order to restore the death penalty for capital crimes, especially crimes when someone shoots or kills a police officer, to get the death penalty. There are two that I could think these are the most that I want to end with. As far as global participation, one of the executive orders says that the U.S. will withdraw from the World Health Organization, that certain global initiatives that we have been participating in, that we're just going to not participate in any more of those things. So that's
I think that's a mistake. Now that I do. You know, he did that during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't remember, and I used to get on those calls, but once they went away, it was kind of difficult to get the information that, you know, we had once had. I don't know if that's what I did.
Yeah. And then the last thing that really jumped out alarming for me. Well, let me tell you a positive first. There's a executive order to find new energy sources. He's designating Alaska as a land rich in resources, and us going there, because it's much of Alaska is untapped, and that's our country. So I think that is very smart and should have been done a long time ago. But the last thing is gender identification. Have y'all heard anything about that? That there will now, where we have the LGBTQIA, he says, nope, in America, there will be male and female.
And that's biblical.
And he said to return to the faith foundation that America was born on. However, something that I thought was hilarious in the order, it says the sex at conception. Your gender will be determined by your sex at conception. Who knows something about biology and conception? Help me out. That makes that, because all fetuses are female. It's female at conception. It takes weeks before your gender is identified. So are we all female? Like, who said that fast? Who says that fast?
Well, I was going to ask you about that. How do you, does it talk about how do you identify with the hypes?
Correct. Well, it doesn't in the order. The order just says that your sex at conception will be what you are.
So we're all females.
Yeah.
Hey, girl.
So those are the, in the interest of time, those are the things that I wanted to discuss and let you discuss, get your feedback on. We, again, call your legislators, the folks that you elected and put in office, both at the state level and at the federal level. We need to, there's specifics like the funding of state programs and Medicaid programs and education programs, Head Start. Those are critical things that our community needs. We can't go 2 weeks and not have funding to provide that. Because I have staff sitting in the room who are working hard, who do a great job and want and deserve to be paid. But what happens is when we can't pay as providers, it's like it's our fault that we should have planned better. And do you get that sense?
I do.
I put your plan better.
No, exactly.
There she.
Proof. Yeah. Keep talking. Talk to your neighbors, your family members, so that they are aware. Because what we don't want is for something to come down that we didn't know about or you didn't know about, and you wake up the next morning and something critical that you need is no longer available to you.
Right.
Go ahead, Shaton.
How's that supposed to work? Like, stay,
Curiously, because your executive order heard about Section 8, but I don't think
There is an executive order on house.
Yeah.
There is.
I didn't know that. You know, I'm on that list. It's black.
Okay, so we were okay. And there's a guy,
So,
That'll be next week, yeah. He's moving fast. Like,
and there's a African American male named Scott Turner that's the new HUD secretary. So it's gonna be interesting.
he's a urban development.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting as hell. Because you know that's a world, a planet all by itself. That housing, and I'm hoping they don't do away with Section 8. They did do away with what was the program? Let's see, it's the Hope. Wasn't that the Hope 6 grant? That way they did away with that. They phased that out years ago, didn't they, Miss Sylvia?
That's black. Now, you know, I've been on that Section 8 list for 10 years, since 2014.
Are you serious?
Still on it. I'm so close to the front of it now.
I told her, what did she be the squeaky wheel? You better call and go there every day. Every week at least.
Since 2014.
Really?
Open that list back up, they told me, since 2014.
Are they gonna open that?
They did start opening it back up, and I got down all the way to 6. Number 6. And now this is happening.
Oh, wow.
But we may pray.
Yeah, you know, the
Pray. They're going to pray. That our needs are met. And that right happens. Justice happens. Justice rolls down like a mighty wave. What is that? I think that's it.
they destroy Section 8. What do you mean destroy for it? They put a Section.
No, HUD has a lot on the fact. Oh yeah, there's so many other components, but it would definitely. Remember now, President Trump wants to shrink,
Right.
so it would shrink absolutely a great deal, but it wouldn't go away. Yeah.
But his goal is to make departments like HUD more effective.
Or yeah.
Because it's not right now.
You guys ever heard of HRSA? It's a bureau of the federal government. There is billions of dollars that sits over there because a lot of people don't even know they exist. And it's gonna be interesting what he does with that. It's billions of dollars like that has accumulated over the years. It's gonna be really interesting what he does with that department and the Medicaid division in Atlanta. That it's gonna be interesting how bad it really shrinks and what it looks like. Eric.
Yeah.
Okay, Kai.
Any questions? Thoughts? Thank you, Father, for this time together. Thank you that you are greater and bigger and powerful. You have the world in your hands. We won't panic over who is leading this country because we know that you control all things. So we give our worries, our anxieties, our needs, our dreams to you. Lord, it's our will that we would do good for this community. Thank you for everybody assembled, that every need that they have will be met. Thank you for justice.
But information, be sure to
Thank you.